The first thing people notice isn't the meticulously maintained lawn or the cheerful chipped paint on the porch. It's the sign, not a polite for sale sign, but a 7-foot-tall hand-painted banner, screaming a single accusatory word at the passing traffic complicit. My yard, once a quiet, manicured slice of suburban conformity, is now a political battleground, a canvas of dissent. Hey everyone, gather around, because I've got a story that's not just about gardening or landscaping, but about taking a stand and making a statement. Picture this: a regular suburban neighborhood, white picket fences and well-manicured lawns. But in the middle of it all, there's one yard that's anything but ordinary. Yep, that's mine. And here's why I turned my yard into a protest zone. Now let's rewind a bit. It all started a few years ago. I was sitting on my porch sipping coffee. Watching the world go by, everything seemed peaceful. But underneath that calm surface, I could feel the tension brewing in our society. Issues were piling up: climate change, social justice, inequality, you name it. And yet it felt like no one was really doing anything about it. It was like the world was collectively holding its breath, waiting for someone to take a leap. Then one morning I woke up with a thought. Why not me? I looked out at my perfectly trimmed lawn and thought, what if this space could become something more? And just like that, the idea sparked. I envisioned my yard not just as a place for grass and flowers, but as a canvas for change. So I dove headfirst into planning. What would a protest zone even look like? I started researching. I scoured the internet for ideas, looking at how other activists were using their spaces to draw attention to important issues. I saw everything from art installations to community gardens. I knew I wanted to create something that would resonate with my neighbors and draw in passers-by. I wanted my yard to be a hub of conversation. So I got to work. I started by painting signs. I'm talking big, bold letters that screamed for attention. Climate justice now, Black Lives Matter. Equality for all. Each sign represented a cause I felt passionate about. I wanted them to be eye-catching, powerful, and unapologetic. And trust me, I had some late nights making those signs. But every stroke of paint felt liberating. Next, I thought about the layout. I wanted my yard to have a flow, a vibe that invited people in. I set up a small seating area with benches made from reclaimed wood. It became a cozy spot for conversations, for people to come together, share their thoughts, and discuss the issues that mattered to us all. I even added a little library filled with books on activism, history, and social change. I wanted to encourage learning and inspire action. But I didn't stop there. I reached out to local artists and activists, inviting them to showcase their work in my yard. I wanted to amplify voices that often go unheard. Soon enough, my yard transformed into an art gallery, filled with murals and installations that challenged the status quo. It was vibrant, colorful, and most importantly, it was alive with energy. You might be wondering, what did my neighbors think? Well, let me tell you, reactions were mixed. Some were curious, stopping by to check it out. Others were skeptical, raising eyebrows and questioning my motives. But hey, that's part of the game, right? When you challenge the norm, you're bound to ruffle some feathers. I remember one evening a neighbor stopped by, arms crossed, looking skeptical. What is this all about? They asked. I took a deep breath and shared my vision. I explained how I wanted to create a space for dialogue, to foster understanding, and to bring awareness to important issues. By the end of our conversation, they seemed a little softer, a little more open. And that's what it was all about, opening up the lines of communication. As the weeks went by, my yard became a gathering place. People would come by, drawn in by the signs, the art, the community vibe. I hosted discussions and workshops on various topics, inviting experts to share their knowledge. We tackled everything from climate action to racial justice. It became a melting pot of ideas and perspectives. And the best part, people started to connect. Neighbors who had never spoken before were now engaging in meaningful conversations, learning from one another and building relationships. Of course, not everything was smooth sailing. There were challenges. Sometimes I'd come out to find signs vandalized or torn down. Those moments stung, but instead of letting it discourage me, I used it as motivation. I'd replace the signs, often with even bolder messages. It became a game of resilience. And with every act of defiance, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. And then there was the media. One day, a local news station caught wind of what I was doing. They came to film a segment, interviewing me and capturing the energy of my protest zone. Suddenly, my little yard was getting attention beyond the neighborhood. It felt surreal. I was just a regular person trying to make a difference, and now I was sharing my story with a broader audience. But with that attention came scrutiny. I found myself navigating a landscape of opinions, both supportive and critical. There were moments when I felt overwhelmed. I questioned if I was really making an impact. But then I do receive messages from people thanking me for creating a space where they felt heard and seen. Those messages fueled my fire. They reminded me why I started this journey in the first place. As seasons changed, so did my yard. I adapted the themes and topics based on what was happening in the world. I transformed it into a voting station during election season, encouraging civic engagement. I hosted a climate action day where we planted trees and cleaned up the local park. Each event brought a new wave of energy, drawing in even more people eager to participate. And let me tell you, there's something incredibly powerful about collective action. I witnessed strangers coming together, united by a common purpose. The sense of community blossomed, and my yard became a symbol of hope and resilience. It wasn't just about the signs anymore. It was about the people who stood behind them. Sometimes I'd sit back and watch the interactions unfold. I saw friendships form, people exchanging ideas, and the community growing stronger. It was beautiful to witness. And it reminded me that change doesn't always have to be loud or radical. Sometimes it starts with small acts of courage, like turning your front yard into a space for protest and dialogue. Now fast forward to today. My yard continues to thrive as a protest zone. It's evolved into a community cornerstone, a place where people can feel safe to express their thoughts and ideas. And while I may have started this journey alone, I've learned that change is never a solitary endeavor. It's about collaboration support and the willingness to stand up for what you believe in. So why did I turn my yard into a protest zone? Because I realized that every space has the potential to spark change. It's about taking that leap, challenging the norm, and creating a platform for voices that deserve to be heard. And if my story can inspire even one person to take action, then it's all been worth it. And who knows, maybe you'll look out at your own yard and start dreaming of what it could become. Because together we can turn our spaces into places of protest, dialogue, and change now. That's something worth fighting for.